Hello everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This recording has been rather scuffed, I'm gonna be honest. I've recorded this episode in 2 parts so far, because they kept on getting cut off around the 22-minute mark, which is a pain, because then I have to order them and then put them all into my editing software separately, and that's just gonna be a massive pain. So, I'm just going to take it from the top. Really ramble this time, you know? I do have a rough script by recommendation of one of my friends who I think is currently the only viewer of the podcast. Besides the point, I'm rambling. Almost like that's the point. But I might be on a timer, so I can't afford to do that too much. Off the bat, you'll notice some changes with how this video is formatted. You'll notice that there is a video this time, not just a phone wallpaper. And also, there's different music. Probably not better, since I think the original video had professionally recorded music, which was royalty-free. But this time, we've got royalty-free music that I made, using an app, whatever. They were specifically labeled as royalty-free, did what I could. I just wanted to have something original. Besides the point, those are the changes to the format. Today we're talking about Hollow Knight. What is Hollow Knight? Hollow Knight is an indie Metroidvania game developed by a small indie game studio situated in Australia, the land down under. It's called Team Cherry. That's not really important to most of this ramble. Basically, to break it down, in Hollow Knight, you play as a bug. Not really a bug, but whatever. In the grand expansive world of Hallowness. That's about it. To break down the game a little more, you play as a bug, you have a sword, you swing your sword, and here's the fun part, here's the real game mechanic. There's this fun little thing called soul, which you collect by striking enemies with your nail, which is what they call swords. When you strike an enemy, it starts to fill up your soul meter, and once you do 3 strikes, you get 1 charge of soul. Your soul bar can hold up to 3 charges at its base, and then later on can hold more. Not important. With soul, you can focus it to heal yourself, or cast spells. That's about it for game mechanics. Next, I want to talk about how just generally, game design philosophy stuff about the game. Because it's a Metroidvania, which I think is my favorite genre of video games. Metroidvanias function under the idea of showing you things at various stages within the game, and giving you the ability to actually explore them later on. Kind of like a platformer, but you need to unlock a better jump to get higher. That's kind of it. It's derived of 2 different games' names, Metroid and Castlevania. And it's the main structure for how this game plays out. So, in the start, you have nothing but focus soul to heal, sword, and jump. And with that, you can find your way to the first spell, which is immediately after a boss fight. And once you get that spell, you can use it to beat a monster that can only be beaten with a projectile, because if you approach it, it curls up into its shell. That's basically Metroidvania game design explained simply. As you go throughout the game, you'll acquire more upgrades to reach more areas. And there's this fun little thing that you might notice if you've played the game a lot, like me. I think I've put something like 300 or 400 hours into it so far. I'm checking right now. Yeah, 355 hours. Besides the point. So, in the first area of the game, you can find... No, you don't find. But there is a pathway to pretty much every other area in the game, except for 3 of them. Because they're all, like, late game areas. So, you get into those other areas from the starting area with upgrades you get later on, and it's like game design or something. It's crazy, dude. So yeah, I thought that was really cool when I figured that out. So yeah, now I'm gonna talk about lore, which will probably be most of the video. So, you know, if you don't want spoilers, there's going to be a timestamp for where you can skip to, where I'll be done talking about lore, but that's probably going to be rather late in the video, so if you don't want to watch more, that's completely understandable, and I won't fault you for stopping watching. Those of you that do want to hear me ramble about lore, and my theories and my synopsis of the game, stick around. But I will be spoiling pretty much everything. So yeah. Spoiler, timestamp here. And I'll give you a few moments to skip or leave if you'd like. Time for me to spoil everything. So, game starts. You jump off of a cliff, wind up in a cave called King's Pass. You walk through King's Pass, find a sign that says, "Higher beings, these words are for you and you alone. Focus soul, regain health." You stumble through a little more. If you route it right, you leave with 95 money and a charm. If you don't, you probably leave with money and maybe a charm? I don't know, but you jump off another cliff into Dirtmouth, where there is only one person. His name is Elderbug. He's a boomer, and he doesn't think that you should chase your dreams in the dark caves of Hollow Nest down below, but you do it anyways. Once you're down there, you stumble around in the Forgotten Crossroads for a little while, until you find your way to a boss fight called False Knight. You kill him. He's dead. And after you kill him, you pick up a couple things. The King's Brand. No, not the King's Brand. Sorry, that's a later game item. The City's Crest. Very similar. Easily confused. And then 200 money. And then Hadoken, which you use to unlock the next area of the game, Green Path, where you find a small bug in a red skirt scuttling around, trying to avoid you like you are the plague. So, if you follow this red bug, whether taking the intended path or not, you'll eventually find your way to Hornet's boss fight. If you're following the intended path, it'll take a lot longer, and you'll probably get a lot more lost, but also acquire a map. Oh man, something I totally forgot to mention. Maps. The world of Hollow Knight is pretty big. I would be underselling it if I said the opposite of that, or if I just didn't say that. So, you need a map to navigate. But you don't start with a map. You need to purchase your map, and to update your map with new locations, you need to buy a quill, and to find your location on the map, you need to buy a compass, and to map different areas, you need to buy new maps. So in the Forgotten Crossroads, you know, that's like a $350 transaction, 30 for the map, 120 for the quill, 200 for the compass. Now you have the mapping starter kit. As you go on, you need to buy more maps to map more, and that may have sounded like a tedious and boring and garbage process. Gosh, who could enjoy this video game? But I assure you, it's a lot better than it sounds, because you don't notice it while playing. Really? You don't, like, if I'm sitting here explaining it, thinking about it, you know, it sounds like, yeah, a tedious, boring process, you know? Oh, I gotta buy the map, and then I gotta buy the quill to edit the map, and then I gotta buy the compass to find myself on the map, and then I have to buy more maps down the line. Ugh. But it's actually a lot better because you don't notice it while playing. You just think, oh, I don't have a map right now. That guy's selling maps. Awesome, I can finally find my way around. Because it's very easy to get lost even when you do have a map. Back on track, you're stumbling around, probably following your map. You're in Green Path. Eventually, regardless of whether or not you took the not the correct path, the normal path or the fast path, you'll eventually find your way to Hornet. Once you beat her, she'll run off because she's scared of you and doesn't want to die like an idiot. Who doesn't want that? And then the person she just murdered will slump over and drop their coat, which you can steal, and now you have a dash. With this dash, your movement capabilities are astronomically increased. It works on the ground and mid-air, and allows you to access the next area of the game. That's a lie. You could have done that anyways, but it would have been a lot slower, less fun, and objectively worse, and you probably wouldn't have been able to make it much further. You can dash now. Isn't that crazy? And with that dash, you dash your way into the fungal wastes, where you can stumble around meeting mushroom people who go, wah! And eventually, the mantises who want to kill you. And if you don't let them kill you, you can steal their hands and use it to wall jump. Yeah, wall jump. It's super cool. With this wall jump, you are now provided a whole litany of new places to go, which is awesome. From this point, you now can access the City of Tears or the Crystal Peak, both of which areas are very useful. One of them helps the other. No, they both help each other. Going to Crystal Peak allows you to obtain the Super Dash, which allows you to skip a large platforming segment that you need to do to reach City of Peaks otherwise. Or, not City of Peaks, City of Tears. If you go to City of Tears, you need to do a platforming segment, but you no longer need to spend $1,800 to buy the lantern necessary to get into Crystal Peaks without the ground pound, which is what you get in Crystal, or not in Crystal, the City of Tears. I keep on messing up what the locations are called because I'm a fool. Besides the point. in an average run, you probably go to the City of Tears, because you couldn't get to the Crystal Peak before, and you probably wouldn't be thinking about it when the City of Tears is so openly presented before you. So, you do a platforming segment, walk up to a big statue of the guy you fought earlier, the False Knight, aka Hegemol. You stick in that city's crest you picked up, and then you move on to the city. In the city, you climb up and around, probably without a map for most of it, really. It's a bit of a stroll, I gotta say. And eventually you find your way to the Soul Sanctum, where you get the Desolate Dive, aka Ground Pound. From here, you probably would head to Crystal Peak, which no longer has a price tag associated with it because you can ground pound. So, you ground pound into Crystal Peak, walk around looking at the shinies for a little bit, and find your way to a large-scale mining operation with large robots that were built for mining using mined crystals, and you pull out its heart, which is the Crystal Heart, and also the Super Dash, which would have allowed you to fly over a large pool of acid that was in between you and the City of Tears earlier. What the Crystal Dash does, or the Crystal Heart does, is it allows you to continuously dash in one direction until a wall or some other force stops you. So yeah, it's really good for movement. At this point, you're a damn fool if you do not go to the resting grounds, which is connected to the Crystal Peak, and also the Forgotten Crossroads. Just depends on whether you'd rather fall into a hole in the ground or crystal dash over a lake. It's up to you, really. But yeah, this is probably where you go next. And upon arriving, 3 strange figures that you've seen before after the Hornet fight trap you in a dream after revealing themselves to you as the Dreamers. Hera the Beast, Lurian the Watcher, and Monomon the Teacher. These losers took a forever nap to ensure the prosperity of the Eternal Kingdom Hollow Nest. Unfortunately, it didn't work and everything went to shit. But that's neither here nor there. You're trapped in a dream, and whether you like it or not, that's just how it is. Until a strange moth rolls up and says, "Hey yo, let's bounce." And then he yoinks you out with the power of, I don't know. And he gives you a dream sword. After that, you wake up at the feet of some moth who is the last of their tribe and also doesn't have a name. They're just called Seer. But yeah, they give you the dream sword and say, give me dream juice and I'll give you cool things. So yeah, you do that. You can acquire dream juice by either hitting trees with your dream sword, hitting ghosts with your dream sword, or hitting bosses that you already killed with your dream sword. So yeah. At this point, you have everything necessary to beat the game. At this point, you can finish the speed run. You've actually got something unnecessary to the speed run. That being the Desolate Dive. But whatever. At this point, if you're playing the game quickly, you go find the Dreamers, kill them, fight the Hollow Knight. If you're playing the game quickly, you go to the sewers. Yep, the sewers. Where you go and meet the Poop Knight. Dung Defender, sorry. Had the wrong wiki page pulled up. So yeah, you fight the Dung Defender. And after that, you gain access to an elevator, a broken down elevator, which, going up it will take you to the second half of the City of Tears, which is imperative to get the King's Brand, which we'll get to that, and also to kill Lurien, the Watcher, that idiot. But first, you should probably go double jump, which you can't do yet, but if you go down this elevator shaft, you can do it. If you kill the broken vessel, who's some loser who got, like, the coronavirus or something. Besides the point. Anyways, that's not important. You fight Broken Vessel, and then you get the Monarch Wings, aka double jump. You are so mobile right now. Never been more mobile in your goddamn life. So yeah. You can double jump, dash, wall jump, super dash, etc., etc., etc. You are now at liberty to kind of go wherever you can go wherever. So, at this point, you can go to the Ashen Grave, which is a place that Hornet told you to go to when you ran into her in the City of Tears, which triggers one of the only cutscenes that isn't in the starting cutscenes of the game. Hornet shows up, says, "Hey, maybe meet me at the Ashen Grave," and then you proceed to not for several hours, because where the hell is that? You eventually do, and you fight her again, and then you receive the King's Brand, which is a thing I talked about earlier briefly, because I misspoke like a fool. After receiving the King's Brand, you can go back to the Ancient Basin, which is where you fought the Broken Vessel, got the Monarch Wings, but go down instead of left, and reach the Abyss, where you can get your Shadow Dash, which allows you to dash through your enemies and their attacks. From here, there's like one other thing to get, which is Isma's Tear, which is optional. But it's nice to have, so, you get it anyways. You wiggle around in the sewers a little bit more, You fought the Dung Defender before. This time, you go somewhere else, and, you move using your Crystal Dash into Isma's Grove, which is where you find Isma. She's dead, also a plant, and her tear allows you to swim in acid. With this phenomenal power, you can now go anywhere you want. The world is your oyster. At this point, you'd go and fight one of the Dreamers. Either Lurien, Monomon, or Hera. Lurien is in the City of Tears at the top of the Watcher's Spire and guarded by the Watcher Knights, which is the hardest boss in the game if you don't know what the hell you're doing. You can fight Umu, which will lead you to Motomon, which is the easiest boss in the game, no matter what, because it's really just a test of your endurance with the same 2 attack patterns for the entire thing. Either electricity that chases you or electricity in specific locations in the battle arena. And outside of that, there's beyond fighting Umu or the Watcher Knights, you can also go find Hera, who lives in the Beast Den, which is also home to cannibals? We're not sure, but they say, "Hello friend, take a seat and rest, you look weary." And then when you do, they tie you up and throw you in their attic, where you then proceed to murder everything in their attic, which, that everything being so many spiders. And upon committing a mass spider genocide, you find Hera, kill her, and then you find out that Hornet and Hera are related. Crazy. But that's neither here nor there. At this point, you have executed all 3 of the Dreamers, and now can complete the game. And if you do, you accomplished the Hollow Knight ending, and continued the perpetuation of Hollow Knight's stasis. That's not a very satisfying ending, so let's shoot for a better one. In this new alternate reality, which ended off at right before the end of the previous one, you decided not to fight the Hollow Knight, and instead went to the gardens, the Queen's Gardens, which is a little offshoot from Green Path. Lush vegetation, really nice place all around. Except for the fact that there are more mantises here, and they want to kill you harder. Because they're all infected and stuff, and the infection grants strength. Do it. Take in the infection. I've made 2 bad references while attempting to record this podcast today. I'm glad that the first one got cut, and I wish that one got cut too, but it wouldn't be a ramble if I... Yeah. Anyways, you go to the Queen's Gardens, where the mantises want to kill you even harder, and... you know, you kill them. Until you find the Traitor Lord, who's like the Mantis Lords, which I'm not sure if I mentioned, but in the previous take, I rambled a lot and gushed about why I like their boss fight so much, because I think it's a lovely dance of death, orchestrated with a lovely soundtrack by Christopher Larkin, who did, like, all the music for the game. And it bangs. Yeah. The reason I like Mantis Lord's fight so much is because it's all very, consistent. All of their attacks have a visual indicator of where they are on screen. If they are in the air above you, they are going to do a dive attack. If they are clinging to the walls, they're going to throw a boomerang, which, depending on their altitude clinging on the walls, will either arc upwards or downwards, and if they're on the ground, they will dash towards you along the ground. Very cool. Pretty standard first phase. In the second phase, 2 of them are coming at you, 2 out of 3, and everything is relatively similar. If they're doing a dash attack, they'll poise themselves each on either side of the arena and dash towards the middle. They will still dive normally, but their boomerang attack will always be headed on a downwards arc. They'll be positioned higher up on the arena's walls, and their boomerang attack will either now follow an inward or an outward arc. On the inward arc, it will meet right in the middle above your character's head. If it's the outward arc, they will meet at the middle where your character stands, and they will hit the walls at the middle of their arc as opposed to the end, which is what would happen with the inward arc. So yeah, everything happens in a very routine fashion, and it makes for a very an excellent boss fight, I think. Very hard for new players who don't really understand what's going on, but I think it's wonderful. Not important. That was truly a ramble. You are in the Queen's Gardens. You're killing all these new mantises that want to kill you harder until you find your way to the Traitor Lord, who is the brother of the 3 Mantis Lord sisters. But he took in the infection that is plaguing Hollownest to gain power and was cast out by his siblings. So he now chills in the Queen's Gardens, guarding the Queen. By pure chance. But yeah. You eventually stumble your way there, and he probably kicks your ass. He's a very difficult boss for people who don't know what to do against him. Most of his attacks can be shadow dashed through, and to actually get here, you need to have the shadow dash. But it's also very easy to misuse your shadow dash. If you use it wrong in one spot, it's very likely that he's probably going to land a hit on you. So yeah. Also, his hits deal twice as much damage as any other in the game, which fun little extra bit, you know, that hurts the soul. But yeah, once you beat him, you gain access to the Queen's Refuge, which is where the Queen of Hollownest lives. Also, she's a tree. Alright. You speak to her. She's like, I've been waiting for one of your like. And by that she means the vessels. Similar to you, the Hollow Knight and the Broken Vessel are vessels. You are a vessel, and thousands of you were birthed by the Queen and the King to contain the infection. But you were all sacrificed to the void to make you empty inside, dead inside. No mind to think, no will to break, no voice to cry out suffering, etc., etc. Yeah. So, you know, thousands of your siblings died to the void, and those of you that didn't died to something else. The Broken Vessel and the Hollow Knight both were taken over by the infection and subsequently killed by you. Many of your siblings actually did escape, only to get slaughtered by Nosk, who's a deceptive creature. And you escaped, only to run off and forget everything in the wilds beyond Hollownest. You eventually come back to finish the job, and we'll get to, and that's what this is. But yeah, so, you meet the Queen. She is a root, and she gives you half of a charm called the King Soul. The other half is located in a very convenient location that I'm sure you've already been to, the Palace Grounds, which is part of the Ancient Basin, right above the Abyss. If you have been there, you know, you'd know that there's the corpse of a king mold, or king's mold, with little dream particles coming off of it. If you tried to hit it with your dream sword, unfortunately, you get repelled, which is a major yikes moment, I'm gonna be honest. And this is the part of the game where you probably need to grind essence. See, up until this point, you've had the Dream Sword, but have you really used the Dream Sword? You probably haven't, because I haven't told you about it. Basically, scattered throughout the world of Hollownest, there are many ghosts. Some of them are warrior ghosts, some of them are normal ghosts, and others are ghosts of enemies you've already fought. For example, The Broken Vessel has a ghost, the False Knight has a ghost, and the Soul Master has a ghost. You can fight these ghosts as well as the other warrior ghosts. I don't recommend fighting the normal ghosts, though, because they're fun NPCs, and, you'd hate to kill them. Also, like, half of them are located in an area where you will get assaulted repeatedly for attempting to murder them, which is a fun tidbit. So yeah, at this point, you need to kill ghosts. You need to grind up your essence count to 1,800, and then you'll get the Awoken Dream Nail, which will allow you to pry into even the deepest of dreams. The White Palace in the King's Mold. So, when you dream nail the King's Mold that's in the palace grounds, it will take you to the White Palace, which, everything inside is covered in tarps and stuff like you're moving out. Also, buzzsaws, thorns, and spears like you're moving out. Typical stuff. Thank you, Mossbag, for that lovely joke. Go check out Mossbag. He explains the lore a lot better than me. You now are faced with the largest platforming challenge in the game, aka the White Palace. That's its whole point. It just is supposed to push your platforming ability to its maximum. So yeah, you platform through and eventually find yourself at the King's Throne Room, where your father, the Pale King, sits upon his throne, very dead. You beat his corpse until it drops the second white fragment used to make the King Soul, which is the union between two higher beings, and also the embodiment of you, because you are also the union of two higher beings. With the King Soul, you can head back into the Abyss, where you got the Shade Cloak, and in there, you will find a hole in the ground called the Birthplace. You can wiggle around in that hole for a little bit and eventually find an egg with a very shiny egg. When you stare into it, you see a reflection of yourself back at you. And you can dream nail that reflection, which will take you to your own memory, which is commonly referred to as the Birthplace cutscene. And basically, you just, weasel your way through the, back up through the Abyss till you get to the exit, where you will see the Hollow Knight in child form and the Pale King standing above it all. And you will grasp onto the ledge, desperately trying to get up before your grip falls and you fall into the abyss to die. When you wake up, you no longer have the King Soul, which is a damn shame, because it would have been a really good charm if it didn't take up 5 charm notches and do basically nothing. Now you have the Void Heart, which makes it so no void creatures will attack you other than the Collector and King's Molds and Wings Molds, which basically means void tendrils and siblings. They won't attack you anymore. Your own shade won't even fight back, which is just lovely. So yeah, now you can finish the game again. At this point, you have everything you need, and you can go back to the Temple of the Black Egg where you fought the Hollow Knight the first time, and Hornet will be there. And now you can do 2 more endings of the game. The Sealed Sibling ending, which just happens if you fight the Hollow Knight as usual, but this time, as you're fighting, Hornet will interrupt, and it prompts you to either dream nail the Hollow Knight or normal nail the Hollow Knight. If you normal nail, Sealed Siblings ending. It's just like the Hollow Knight ending, but hornets in the background. In the other ending, where you dream nail the Hollow Knight, you then are in a strange place. I'll say that. It's cloudy. There's platforms. It's a grand stadium. You hop up the platforms and are prompted with the words challenge. If you accept this prompt and challenge, you fight the Radiance. Banger boss fight. Fight. Banger boss music. I think the fight's kind of mediocre. It's all very random, and the boss just kind of teleports around the arena, shooting off random attacks at you. But it's a good final boss. I'll give it that. And the music bangs. So you beat the Radiance and unlock the Dream No More ending. You have removed the infection from this land, calling your siblings of the Void up to assist you. And you eliminate the Radiance. Now, that was the base game, which was excellent. But there's more to it than that, because there were 2 free DLCs. The first one being the Grim Troop, which unlocks 2 new boss fights, 3 new entries in the Hunter's Journal, and 2 new charms, which you can only get 1 of in each playthrough. So, let's go through the Grim Troop. You are walking through the Howling Cliffs, an area that is accessible through Green Path, when you walk through a corridor and end up finding a strange torch-like structure, a brazier of sorts. You don't know how to interact with it. There doesn't seem to be anything to do with it. So you're about to turn around as you notice a small crack in the wall ahead. As you walk through, you discover the corpse of a large bug with a red hood on its head and a mask. Now, as you're used to doing, you pull out your dream nail and swing it towards this bug. And it explodes into flames. In the next room, a sinister red glow appears. This is new. This usually doesn't happen when you hit something with your dream nail. Normally, it just tells you a little something that the creature was thinking before it died, but this is different. You go back into the previous room, where the red glow originates from, and find the previously unlit brazier now filled with smoldering embers. You sit there and consider for a moment. What should I do here? And you inevitably decide to fan the flames, and eventually it spreads to the torch that the brazier is connected to. You hear a little jingle, and then everything seems to be normal. The brazier is still burning, the torch is still lit, but nothing is happening anymore. So you leave. Nothing more to see here. And when you arrive back in Dirtmouth, there's a sinister feeling in the air. There's the sound of an accordion accompanying the usual tune you're used to hearing. And there are some eerie red tents set up right on the edge of town. Elderbug stands there, mortified at the appearance of these strangers and their sinister troop. And if you were to investigate, you'd be greeted by a masked figure playing the accordion, and if you were to speak to him, he'd say, "Go on now, into the next room, speak with the master." And who are you to disagree? You go into the next room and meet with the master, Troop Master Grimm. A sinister-looking fellow. He seems well-spoken. Doesn't seem to have much going on other than his suspicious figure. Upon speaking to him, he'll say some mumbo-jumbo about welcoming the troop, etc., etc. Don't particularly care, honestly. You kind of zone out. And he just realizes you're not listening and gives you a charm called the Grimm Child. Upon equipping it, a small bat-like creature would flutter around your body, and then Grimm would instruct you to seek the flames of this forgotten kingdom, harvest them, and bring the child back to him. You've got nothing better to do. You've already killed the Radiance. You've collected most other charms, and you've pretty much got all of your mask fragments collected and soul vessel containers obtained, so you might as well. You seek the flames of the Forgotten Kingdom, as he put it, and meet these little gremlins, similarly robed in red with masks, and they wield staves with a similar red flame that you saw earlier. You kill them, you collect their flame, you bring the Grimm Child back to Grimm, and he says, excellent. Go do it again, but this time it's a little harder. They're a little more inconvenient to get to, and they don't pull their punches anymore. You do that, you bring him back, and he says, excellent, the show can now begin. And then you do a boss fight with him. It's not very difficult, I'll be honest. In between attacks, it's pretty slow. During attacks, it's fast enough. They're not really difficult to avoid, though. So you beat him. He gives you some money, gives you a better version of the Grimm Child, and says, go seek the true forgotten light of this forgotten fires of this kingdom, or whatever. So, you might as well follow through. You do that. And, this time it sucks. It really does. There's 4 to collect. One of them being held by Brum, the fellow who was playing the accordion earlier. 3 others are held by more Nightmare Grimmkin, who are Radians. They truly do not pull their punches, and when their punches connect, it's 2 masks of damage. So, depending on who you talk to, if you just collect the 3 Nightmare Grimmkin flames, Brum disappears, he doesn't have anything to say to you. If you speak to Brum, he says, alright, let me lay it out for you, pal. So this whole thing that Grimm has going here, it's a sham. For ages now, we've been showing up at these forgotten kingdoms, draining the last bits of life out of them, and commencing the ritual to create a new troop master and power up the Nightmare Heart, which is like the god they worship or something. Basically, they find some poor schmuck to raise the Grimm Child, and then the person raising the Grimm Child kills the current troop master, sacrificing them to the Nightmare Heart, and then the Grimm Child proceeds to grow into the new troop master. A twisted cycle, and Brum wants to end it. So he says, hey, if you want this to end too, meet me where it all started. Now, here's your options for 2 new endings pertaining to specifically the Grimm Troop. You can either commence the ritual, meet Grimm at the tents, and enter his dreams with the Grimm child, at which you'll fight Nightmare King Grimm, with the Nightmare Heart beating in the background. Or, you can meet Brum where it all started, and banish the Grimm Troop. If you meet with Brum, which I did the first time, you banish the Grimm Troop as he planned. They go off somewhere else, and that's about it, really. If you do not meet with Brum, and you commence the ritual, you fight Nightmare King Grimm, a harder boss than the final one, dealing 2 masks of damage, similarly to the final one, but throwing out attacks far quicker, which cover more area. Most of these attacks are revamps of ones from the first fight. Faster, more, like, he has this uppercut move that would send out a spray of flames after he completed it. There's more flames and they fall faster, and he moves faster during the attack. He had this dive attack that he would do, and now it's faster and it leaves behind a trail of flames behind him. He would shoot out these fire bats from his cloak. Now there's more of them and they're faster. He also just has a completely new attack, which creates 4 pillars of flame. Yeah. So it's pretty hectic. But, you know, if you beat him, the Grimm dies, and the Grimm child is fully upgraded, and you leave with the Grimm child charm. But if you meet with Brum and banish the troop, you can meet Brum playing his accordion in Dirtmouth. He's much smaller now. Seems like he is shrunk. Also, his attire has changed. He no longer wears the red cloak and mask, and he doesn't appear to remember anything. But he's got a fun little charm, and he'll give it to you. You will obtain the Carefree Melody, and that's about it. So, that's all mighty interesting. But, what else is there? Well, there's a second DLC called the Godmaster DLC, which is the more lore-relevant one. Basically, in the sewers, you can find a location known as the Junk Pit. In the Junk Pit, there is a large bronze sarcophagus, which, upon unlocking, will release the Godseeker, a hulking mass of a bug that immediately falls over and passes out. You can enter this bug's dreams, and upon doing so, you find yourself in Godhome, where these bugs, known as the Godseekers, are attempting to attune to a higher focus. They're trying to attune to the gods through ritual combat. So, now you have these funky, fresh little things called Pantheons to do, which is just a boss rush. There are 5 of them. The first 4 take you through the boss fights of the game, and then the final one is a boss rush of every boss in the game, one after another. The first 4 were only like 10 bosses. now you're doing all of them. All, like, 40. No. Actually, it's more like 40. 41, 42. Something like that. You fight Grim twice. Normal Grim and then Nightmare King Grim. You fight the Soul Master twice. Soul Master and then Soul Tyrant. False Knight and then Failed Champion. Broken Vessel and Lost Kin. So yeah, there's like 44 boss fights. And then there are a few break rooms. So at the end, it's like 50 something rooms. Like 52. Like probably something like 46 boss fights. Besides the point, you do the first 4 pantheons, fighting the pantheon of the Master, the Artist, the Sage, the Knight, and then the pantheon of Hallownest, which is all of it. And in the end, you fight the absolute Radiance, the true Radiance, at the peak of the pantheon. And upon beating the Radiance, you fall into a sea of void and rush up in a new form, the Lord of Shades, the Void Creature, a terrifying beast with 6 eyes and several tentacles. And then you hack the Radiance to bits. Then you descend from the peak of the Pantheon, running into the Godseeker as you go, enveloping them in your monstrous mass of void, and breaking out of the Godseeker's physical body. Then, from there, you just kind of disappear. The infection dies out, the bugs go back to normal, whether that be dead or just uninfected, and the vines and bulbous growths of infection seem to go away. And that's it. That is the Embrace the Void ending. And then there's one more ending. The Delicate Flower ending, which is the stupidest ending, I'll be honest. Plays out the exact same as the previous one, except after breaking out of the Godseeker's physical body, it gets caught. You get stopped by the Delicate Flower, which you had to have given to the Godseeker before completing the Pantheon. And yeah, you get absorbed into the flower and teleport somewhere else along with the rest of the Godseeker. It's very strange, you know. So yeah, that's the story of Hollow Knight. That's the whole game. There's a whole bunch of implicit lore bits that I didn't mention. Honestly, I probably won't, because there's so much I can go into, and, like, we're already nearing an hour. So I'm gonna talk about why I like the game. Because I've gone and told you the story. Honestly, I don't think I need to explain why I like the game. I've told you the story, I've told you how the game flows, and I've been gushing about it for an hour now. So I guess I will talk about lore. So, you know, I've told you about pretty much everything that happens in the main game. But I do want to break down some lore bits that I didn't completely mention. First off, earlier I talked about fighting Hornet and getting the King's Brand. Getting the King's Brand requires you to crawl through the carcass of a large creature known as a worm, which is the Pale King. Basically, what a worm is, it is a giant, limbless creature that has the power to draw other creatures into its thrall, and also a tad bit of foresight. Very interesting creatures. But on top of that, there was a strange line said by a caterpillar? I don't know what he is. His name is Bardoon, and he's just trying to sleep peacefully away from all the buzzing aspids in the Kingdom's Edge. But upon speaking to him, he will tell you this. I'm paraphrasing here because I've forgotten the exact quote, but he says something about how death for a worm is more of a transformation, and the pale worm transformed into the Pale King, which is mighty interesting. We are not explicitly told of any other worms in Hollow Knight, but I believe that there's a second one. Because of a couple things. One, in the Kingdom's Edge, there is a second large carcass. This carcass being the Colosseum of Fools, which is a Colosseum run by the Lord Fool. The Colosseum is built on the inside of this huge carcass, and as far as we can tell, it is limbless and very big. And also has a king related to it, that being the Lord Fool. I believe that the carcass that the Colosseum of Fools is carved out of is another worm, specifically the black worm, which, this is a very baseless theory, I'll be honest. I think I'm making a lot of assumptions in saying this, but in the Hunter's Journal, there are a few events that are mentioned after you have defeated the White Defender. Namely, the Battle of the Black Worm and something else. I'm pretty sure that the Battle of the Black Worm had something to do with the Lord Fool and the Colosseum of Fools. And I think the Colosseum of Fools is carved out of the carcass of the Black Worm, and I think the Lord Fool is the transformed form of the Black Worm. That is my theory. By God, I could be wrong on so many levels. You know, Mossbag, correct me if I'm wrong. It's completely baseless, I'll be honest. It's grasping for straws, but I think it's, like, nobody has a better theory for what it is, you know? At least I haven't run into one. So yeah, that's my first lore tangent. Next, I think I want to talk about the Lord of Shades, because I think there are two canon endings for Hollow Knight. I think Dream No More and Embrace the Void are the most plausible endings for canon, because or also just the Hollow Knight. Because frankly, the Hollow Knight is the ending that the vessel you play as would probably accomplish. He has no reason to go off and do half of the things he does. He's supposed to be emotionless, no mind to think, no will to break, and no voice to cry out suffering. But the actions portrayed in the Embrace the Void and Dream No More ending, like, you need to jump through a lot of hoops to get to them. You need to be willing to do a lot of extra stuff, you know? And, like, as the vessel you play as, like, I guess you're not even here with a purpose. You just are. You like, subconsciously responded to the cries of the Hollow Knight. Also, can I just say, the Hollow Knight was so not a good vessel. Like, he just completely did his job wrong. He was supposed to have no mind to think, no will to break, and no voice to cry out suffering. Yet clearly, his mind was thinking and his will was broken, and he definitely cries out suffering at the start of the game. Or maybe that's the Radiance, but still, Hollow Knight, garbage vessel, Pale King, what the hell were you doing? Besides the point, I prefer to think of Embrace the Void as Dream No More, or Dream No More as the canon endings. Take your pick, I don't care. Because they feel like the most impactful, you know? The Hollow Knight ending literally sets up for just Hollow Knight, a second playthrough of Hollow Knight as a different vessel. But Dream No More, the Radiance is eliminated, or at least subdued for a while. And Embrace the Void, the Radiance is dead, and the Void is released onto Hollownest. And that has big implications for what could happen, you know? Because, like, the Void Beast, the Lord of Shades, whatever you want to call him, he's a very powerful entity. Like, he has a room in the Hall of Gods, just below the Radiance's room. And he eliminated the Radiance. The Radiance did not survive that. Like, no doubt in my mind. So, with the infection gone, what does the Lord of Shades want to do? Because, like, he still exists. He escaped, you know? And so did the Hollow Knight, and Hornet is still alive. Those were also very important parts of the Embrace the Void ending. Since the infection was removed, Hornet, standing outside of the Black Egg, you know, was confronted by the Hollow Knight, because he just, like, was free, you know? With the infection gone, he no longer has any reason to be in there, you know? The chains that bound him no longer need to bind him. So he's free to do as he wishes, and, like, he takes on a very combative stance immediately after seeing Hornet. Which is probably bad. Even though I was, like, missing an arm. Yeah, so, like, it just has so many implications for, like, what happened after that, you know? Like, the Void Beast is out. Actually, wait, if the Void Beast is out, does that mean the Hollow Knight would still be hollow? Because I'd assume that his void would have been sapped. Would that just, like, immediately kill him? That's a whole other can of worms. I'm not gonna get into that. The Lord of Shades is out on the loose, and what does he want? Because he was still very much put together when he left, and I don't think the Void would stay unified for no reason, you know? I don't know. Not God, nor beast, nor bug. That is what is said on the statue of the Knight in the Hall of Gods. And then afterwards, I'm pretty sure it says Void given thought once you've ascended in the Hall of Gods. And then after that, it's Void given focus. And I don't know what that means exactly, but it's probably not good. No. It means that the Void has a goal, I think. Because the Void can now think, and the Void has a goal. It has a focused goal. What is that goal? What could the Void want? Up until this point, the Void has pretty much appeared to be completely impartial to everything. It just, like, doesn't agree with the Radiance, pretty much. Like, I'm pretty sure the Void killed the Pale King, but also, you know, they had a reason. You know, the Pale King kind of used the Void to kill thousands of his children, enough to create a gigantic cavern. Which is kind of a yikes moment. But, you know, after that, the Void's accomplished its goal. I don't see it wanting to go after the White Lady, you know. She's, like... The Pale King was willing to do whatever needed to be done to keep Hollownest lasting eternal. The White Lady, she was complacent, but she did feel remorse. And the Dreamers, regardless of the fact that they're already dead, they were just working with the king, you know, complying with his wishes. Hera drove a hard bargain, though, you know, only settling after receiving a dalliance in the form of Hornet, which, on the topic of Hornet and Void, people will say that Hornet is Void. Hornet is not Void. And I quote, "So, you've now seen the truth behind your tragic conception. We both share a similar power, but it is that crucial emptiness I do not share. That crucial emptiness being the Void. The vessels weren't born empty and soulless. They were born and then sacrificed to the Void and wound up husks." Yeah. Hornet's not Void. Also, another thing, pointing to Hornet not being Void, Hornet is referred to as the gendered child, being that she is the Pale King's child that is, like, gendered. Because the rest of the vessels were, like, killed off before they could even, like, be that conceived, you know? I don't know, I don't get how people argue that Hornet is Void. Especially with, like, Silksong stuff, but we'll crack into that later. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the implications of the Lord of Shades is huge, and definitely like, has some stake on what is canon. I don't think Delicate Flower is canon, and I just think Sealed Siblings is too underwhelming to be considered canon. Also, it's sad. I don't like the Sealed Siblings ending very much. Because Hornet kind of dies in that ending for no reason. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Lord of Shades has a goal, but I don't know what that goal is, and it's spooky. Like, maybe he wants to exert supreme control over Hollow Nest. Maybe he wants to revive the old Void Worshippers, because before Hollow Nest, those guys did exist. They created a whole bunch of soul totems and stuff. Very cool dudes, helped me out a lot. But I don't know, that whole situation seems to have kind of died out. The Radiance is dead, no need to worry about that. The Nightmare Heart may or may not be dead, depending on whether you did that before or after beating the 5th Pantheon. I don't know. It's very interesting what it implies. I don't know what else to talk about for, like, Hollow Knight lore. So I'm going to talk about Silksong, and just other stuff I want to talk about regarding Hollow Knight. Starting with Silksong, man am I excited. Hype is real. Cause, like, ever since it was announced, I've been looking forward to Silksong so much, because off the bat, it looks like it's going to be more movement-based than Hollow Knight was. And with, like, more flowy combat, which just sounds like, oh man, they decided to make Hollow Knight better, like, even better. Bosses look cool. It's, like, stylistically the same. The locations that have been showed off look awesome. I'm really looking forward to this whole, like, motif they have with the bells and stuff, and, like, silk and stuff. Very cool. So far, from what I understand, the guys that run the land, Farloom, have demanded that people give them their silk for something. So people from far and wide are coming to get silk and give it to the higher-ups, and they're gonna, like, get a reward or something. But I believe that the higher-ups have actually organized it so that they have guys that will kill people off before they can deliver their silk, so they don't have to reward anybody. And silk has some sort of power. Like, silk is magical, and so is song. That's why it's called Silksong. Ooh. What it is, I do not know. But it seems very interesting. The game mechanics seem very cool. Like, currency is handled differently. You still, like, drop currency on death, but you do just need to find the silk cocoon it's sitting in to regain it, which is fine. Yeah, currency system's a little different, having, like, rosaries, which is, like, bundles of currency that you can break. Seems very interesting. Seems like they've abandoned charms in place of just kind of, like, equipping skills, which seems rather cool. I'm sure that there's going to be, like, permanent skills. Like, I remember seeing that there's, like, a sprint, and then, like, you can long jump. There's, like, a wall climb, I think, a ledge grab. It seems very cool. A lot more movement based. I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. I'm pretty sure you have to like fight the fast travel system to unlock it. And if you lose, you need to like wait till later to unlock it differently. I don't know, it seems like it's going to be very cool, and I can't wait to learn more about it and play it. I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing it later this year. Maybe that's just wishful thinking. Yeah, that's all I think I can say about Silksong, honestly. I don't know much about it. Nobody really does. Just kind of hyped to learn more about Hornet, the Weavers, and whatever Silk and Song are. Also, game mechanic in there about like playing an instrument. Love games that do that. I've played Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Banger games to both of them, and they both had music mechanics. Like that a lot. That's all I have to say on that matter. Don't know what else to say. Yeah, I think just like another Hollow Knight related thing. Dude, I want the Knight in Smash Bros. So much. Me and my pal were theorizing like his moveset and stuff the other day. And it just seems like it would work, dude. But, you know, he probably won't get in because Nintendo does a Nintendo or something. Regardless, I think this is a good place to end the podcast. I think we're at something like an hour and 10 minutes. My current timer only says 25 minutes. But that's because there was another break in the podcast. This whole episode has had a lot of hiccups, dude. I spent like 10 hours working on the art for it, which like spread over 3 days. Ended up being like more time I've ever put into like any art piece this past like 365 days. Like most of my art assignments for school were like, I do it and complete it the same day after like 4-ish hours of work. It was a very rewarding piece to do. You guys are seeing it happen right before your eyes. I hope it's good. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all like and subscribe. Yeah, I'll be back next week, probably to talk about D&D. Though if you guys want to hear something else, I'll take suggestions from the comments or on my Twitter. Yeah, I think that's all for now. I hope this episode was better. I hope the audio had a better quality to it. I hope there's less background noise. And, yeah, I'm really enjoying doing this so far, and I hope you're all enjoying hearing my opinions and me talk about things. I don't know what this episode was. Kind of a worse moss bag, I guess. I just, I told you about the plot, I told you about game design stuff, and then, I don't know, I didn't have much to say in regards to theories and stuff. I was about to say, oh, I'm rambling again, but that's the whole point. I'm a mess. Like and subscribe. Follow my Twitter, it's linked in the About section. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Dude, that was epic.